Okay, so today I'm going to show you exactly how you can turn your low leverage podcast into a high leverage podcast system using a couple of frameworks and tools. So what's the problem? Currently, the problem is that most of you film one podcast, you put in hours of prep, to record, to edit, and the only piece of output is just one podcast. There's zero multiplier. You're having zero leverage. So basically, most of you have a podcast that looks like this. You record, you edit the podcast, you get one podcast episode, you upload to YouTube, and then you hope and pray, and then you repeat. You repeat. And this is terrible. If you're spending so much time and effort on one podcast, you might as well make it worth it. So yeah, it's just a quick introduction. I'm Ben. I've helped generate millions in engagement across social platforms and turned content into 7 figures over the last 6 years. Give me the next 20 minutes and I'll show you exactly how I'll transform any founder podcast from an expensive vanity project into a high leverage content factory. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to go from a low leverage podcast to a high leverage content machine through one simple framework. So that's my promise to you. I'm going to make this quick. I'm going to make this no fluff. Let's get into it. So the first thing we need to do is we need to understand leverage. Leverage in the sense of units is basically you put in 1 unit of work and you get out 5 units of output. Now, for most of you, you're stuck in a 1-to-1 ratio. You film 1 time, you get out 1 output. You're working hard, but you're getting nowhere because you're approaching podcasts completely wrong. So real leverage looks like a multiplier. And this is exactly how it looks like here. You put in 1 piece of input, you put it through the engine, and you get multiple pieces of output. You get maybe 20 pieces of output. And I'll show you how this looks like in the real world, in practice as well. Many of you who do podcasts, especially founders, are very passive in the way you approach it. You film and you pray. You just hope something goes viral. You're waiting for a magical moment. You just upload and you forget. And there's zero strategic planning that goes into this. And what I'm trying to show you is a new way where you can basically engineer viral moments. You can create demand to share. You can reverse engineer clips and you basically get high leverage multiplication. So instead of waiting for magic moments to appear in conversations, what I'm trying to show you today is that you can actually manufacture this. And a lot of the top creators in the podcast game, they do this. They do this by default. They don't even need to plan it anymore. They've done it so many times. It's become a skill. It's become something that they've been able to replicate over and over again. And this is why they, of course, have success. There's one concept that I would like to share today, which is this. So many of you have heard this quote, "Begin with the end in mind" by Stephen Covey. So get this out of your head. I'm going to teach you a new one. Begin with the clip in mind by Benjamin Chua. So what I want you to do when you approach a podcast is not approach it with, oh, I'm going to film a podcast. I'm going to sit down for 1 hour. We're going to talk. We're going to chat. We're going to explore different things. What you want to do is you want to actually begin with the clip in mind. You want to know what kind of viral moment you have planned and ready that you can just put out there. And that's where we'll get to the Peel framework in a moment. But yeah, you see Joe Rogan, Chris Williamson, Steven Bartlett. You see the killer clips everywhere. 40-second highlights that rack up millions of views. These don't just happen by accident. So here's one takeaway for you. These don't happen by accident. These professionals, they've trained the way that they speak. They know exactly how to say certain things in ways that make it clippable, to make them detachable from the actual podcast so that it can go viral, so it can actually become a standalone piece of content by itself. So the genius is this. Short form content is risk-free for the viewers. That's why you need to understand that you want clippable content. Think about it yourself. Instead of asking someone to commit to watching a 1-hour podcast with 20 views and 0 social proof, you just give them a 40-second highlight. If they resonate, they will watch the full episode. If not, you still get views and engagement on the clip. So think about it from the point of view of risk. Everyone's time is precious. You probably told someone that you don't have time to do X, Y, and Z today. So what makes you think that someone's going to spend an hour watching your podcast when they don't even know who you are, what you're doing, where you came from? Do you have credibility? Who knows? Whereas if you show them a 20-second clip, you show them some good value points, you show them some good nuggets. That's where they start to realize, they start to recognize your face, and they start to realize, okay, this is someone worth watching. I want to get to know this person. I want to watch this 1-hour clip. So here's the weapon for you today, the Peel framework. This is your weapon for creating clippable, shareable podcast moments every single time you record. So Peel stands for point, evidence, explanation, and link. So the point is basically a hook. It's a screenshot-worthy statement that stops the scroll. Evidence is facts, numbers, and the actual stories that back up your point. The explanation is the meat of what happened. It's the elaboration. It's what you did. It's the strategic thinking, your breakdown. And then basically you end it off with a link. One sentence takeaway, a final insight that makes it shareable, that makes it feel complete. So this Peel framework, it can be applied in a YouTube video. It can be applied to a podcast as a whole. It can be applied everywhere. It's actually a framework that I took from writing, where you can structure certain points like this, and it makes it flow in a very easy to understand manner. However, you can take this and apply it to short form content itself, and these are the ingredients you need. So the Peel framework in action. So let's say you're on a podcast. This is an example for a business podcast. And let's say you have your point, basically. It should be a good hook. It should be something that grabs them by the scruff. So the point is, our biggest customer was about to churn. The evidence, they represented 40% of our revenue in an 18-month relationship. And we tried everything. And then you start to explain. The standard retention tactics weren't working. Discounts failed. More support failed. We did something counterintuitive. We actually helped them evaluate our competitors and gave them an honest recommendation. And in the link, sometimes the best retention strategy is letting them leave. And maybe this turns into another clip where it's, and maybe they went to the competitors and then they came back or whatever. But basically, this is your 30-second, 1-minute clip that you can actually give or say and explain during a podcast setting. But this is the clip that gets extracted out of that. You see, your explanation needs to be concise. The way you explain it must be understandable in a standalone clip. The problem now is that I see many of my clients or many of the podcasters do, especially newer podcasters, is that they just drone on and on and on. They're not concise when they speak. When you're not concise when you speak, how can you expect anyone to clip that? If you ask an editor, they're going to have so much struggle trying to minimize the gaps between your word to make that clippable. Because most of you probably have clips, but your clips are probably 2 minutes, 5 minutes long because you just took too long to explain. You had no framework in the explanation. And why does Peel work? Structure creates clarity. It's clippable by design. When you follow the Peel framework, your stories have natural momentum. Viewers stay engaged. They know a payoff is coming. And this basically gets people to come and watch your shorts. And this gets people to trust you. They trusted you with 20 seconds of their time. They're more likely to trust you with 1 hour of their time to watch the actual podcast. It's also clippable by design. Each section of Peel serves a purpose. The point grabs attention, which is the hook, which is very important with short form content. Evidence builds credibility. Explanation delivers the value. And the link creates the shareable moment. It brings it all back together. You get higher completion rates, you get more shares, and you get better recall. So this is what happens. And here, let me let you in on a secret. Guests want viral clips too. So they're very likely to collaborate with you on this. So before you hit record next time, spend 10 minutes with your guests pre-planning some viral moments. Walk them through the Peel framework. Send them this video. Identify 3 to 5 stories that they can tell using this structure. And this is not being fake or scripted. It's actually just being strategic. Your guest gets shareable clips that boost your brand, and you get high leverage content that actually performs. Everyone wins. So this is the difference between a podcast that gets 200 views and 200,000 views. It's you're engineering the moments worth sharing. So let me show you this now. Now that you know the Peel viral framework, we can show you what this framework allows you to do. One more thing. The harsh reality is that no one was going to watch the full podcast anyways. The average watch time on a long form piece of content is 11 minutes long. Okay, so stop optimizing for the 1% who watch everything and start optimizing for the 99% who want quick, valuable clips. And a percentage of those people will convert. So yeah, this might sting, but it's probably the truth that you needed to hear. So stop optimizing for the full episode views. No one's going to consume it completely. Focus on creating killer 30 to 60 second clips that get their initial trust so that they convert and watch your long form thing. Okay, so let me show you the transformation. So here's a high leverage podcast system. So first, you pre-plan the viral moments with your guest. Next thing you do, you record and you plant the viral moments. So this is the input. Nothing really changes except that now you're coming in to the podcast with a game plan and you have viral moments that you've planned. You have created Peel framework stories of your own, which you're going to share. And one thing here as well is that now you have question frameworks. You ask questions that you ask questions that your guest can reply in a Peel framework format. So here's the engine. You're going to get a podcast. It splits 2 ways. You're going to get a podcast and you're going to get a short. So you're going to produce, and this is the production phase. You have 2 production engines, podcast production engine and a short form production engine. So for your podcast production engine, what does that look like? First, you're going to get a full podcast. You're going to get a full podcast, which is just the whole podcast put there. Obviously, you edit it and make it nice. You cut out all the fillers and whatnot. Next thing you're going to do, and this is probably 2 hours long, 1 hour, 2 hours long. Next thing you're going to do, you're going to get tactical topics. So these are actually YouTube videos, standalone YouTube videos that look like 10-minute how-to type videos, or tactical topics, meaning like a specific topic inside the podcast that was explained really deep. For example, you're on a marketing podcast and you're talking about how does vibe coding, you're on a marketing podcast, you're talking about vibe marketing and how can you vibe market a SaaS product, for example. And you're talking about one case study. Okay, this is how you vibe marketed this SaaS product, took it from 0 to 100 users within 20 days. And you and the guest, you guys bounce back and forth and you guys talk about it for about 10 minutes. This then can be taken out of the podcast and put there as a case study episode. Hey, here's a case study of how you can take a SaaS to 100 users within 20 days. And that becomes a standalone YouTube video. And the magic here is that you did not need to do anything. All you needed to do is take that 10 minutes, clip it out, and that becomes a standalone episode, which probably gets more views than the actual podcast. You can get a how-to or a step-by-step video. Basically, it's the same thing as a tactical topic. It's just that now this is a how to vibe market your new SaaS. And certain how-tos, basically, they rank differently with the SEO. And yeah. And then the last thing that you can do is you can get a podcast trailer. So if you're relying on generic traffic from YouTube to find your podcast, unless you're already a household name and people search for you, people know who you are, most likely no one's going to find you. So that's why you create a podcast trailer. You show all the best highlights, all the, best things that you covered during this podcast. And you want to make people realize that, wow, there's value in your podcast. People should actually go and watch it. And then you take that trailer, which is probably 1 or 2 minutes long, and you put it everywhere. Your guests will put it on their profile. You will put it on your profile. You put it on your LinkedIn. You put it on Instagram. You put it on, obviously not on YouTube, but you put it on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. You put it everywhere. If you have a newsletter, you put it there. And you give people a taste of what they can expect so that they want to watch the full podcast. So just here, you can see this single input, quadruple output. You turn one input into 4 outputs. Now that is already a 4 times leverage. You're getting 400% more output than you would have if you had just, stuck doing this. So I hope you got value out of this so far. And now let's continue. Next thing you can do, which is more interesting for distribution. Okay. And next thing you do, obviously you distribute it. You put the full podcast on all the podcast platforms, not just one. You put the tactical topics and the how-to step-by-steps. You put down YouTube. That stuff goes good on LinkedIn as well. And of course, the podcast trailer, you put it on X, you put it on LinkedIn, you put it on TikTok, Instagram, whatever. You get the idea. So the next thing that you can do, which is super high leverage, is you can get shorts. Shorts are basically bite-sized nuggets, which you put out there. And these are basically repurposed from your actual podcast. So from this, obviously you get viral moments, you get absurd moments, you get a killer story, case study, tactical tips, quotes, and humor. This is not exclusive. This is just some ideas that I put out there. There can be a lot of different types of clips that you can get. Okay. But basically, if you already did, okay, so a lot of people, they put clips out there and it's not working. Why is it not working? Because they don't follow the Peel format. They don't have a hook in the podcast. They don't have a hook. They don't have a good explanation. They don't have a link. People create shorts out of podcasts without following the framework. And basically what the shorts look like is an out of context video. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's 30 seconds of a mid conversation, few things that you said, and that's it. And you're wondering why your shorts don't do well. And this is the exact reason, because you're not following this Peel viral moment framework. You're not following anything, Basically what happens once you start to plan viral moments is that you now know, okay, this person just asked me a question about how did I build my business? Then you already have these stories lined up. You have these hooks lined up. My business was actually 5 days away from shutting down until I did this. And this is something you can say that was a hook. And this is something you can say in the podcast naturally. It's just that you have to have it in your head. You have to have it in your head before you actually go in to the podcast. Basically, even in everyday conversation, you can use the Peel framework. Anything you explain can use the Peel framework. And that makes it clippable. So essentially, you want to become a walking Peel machine. everything that comes out of your mouth is in a peel format so that it can actually be clipped. And that's how you get the highest leverage. Okay. And these shorts, these are basically attention grabbers. The way I look at shorts and podcasts is I look at shorts as the attention driver. You're probably not going to get people that convert and buy your product or buy your service from your shorts. But shorts put you on the map. People now know who you are. They know that you exist. They've seen your face. Then they go and watch your YouTube. They go and watch your podcast. They go and watch your long form stuff. And then that's where they convert. They trust you and they're like, okay, I want to give this person a shot. I want to buy his thing. I want to buy his course. I want to buy use his app, whatever. And that's why these two come hand in hand. It's not one or the other. It's both. You use both. And that's how you also get a full high leverage system. You see, now you have two engines. You have one input. You have two engines. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 different outputs. And that's like the minimum. You can get like 20. 1:20. A 2000% increase. So I hope that has already shown you and inspired you what you can do to double the leverage you get out of your podcast today. So let me show you how this looks like in practice in the real world. So in the real world, this is Steven Bartlett and this, I don't even know who she is, but I actually watched this episode, which is why I'm using this as an example. Okay. I didn't watch the podcast. I watched this episode. This one came up on my feed. I like to use creatine. I wanted to know why 5 grams of creatine wasn't enough. So I clicked and I watched the full thing. And then after watching it, I was like, holy shit, this was actually just a 10-minute clip from the full podcast. You see how genius this is. So essentially, what did they do? They did the same thing that you did. They do the same thing you do. They record, except that they already plant viral moments by habit. Okay. You need to do it consciously until you can do it subconsciously. Okay. But essentially, Steven Bartlett did the same thing. They got the input. They recorded a 2-hour-long podcast, 3-hour-long podcast, and they got one output. So most of you would have stopped here. But they, being the pros in this game and understanding how it works, they turned that into at least 7 pieces of output. At least. I just found this in 5 minutes. They have way more. They probably turned it into newsletters. They probably turned it into Twitter posts. They probably turned it into carousels. They probably leveraged the fuck out of this. But I just want to show you, like, most of you stop here. So they turned this into 3 YouTube videos. So you see, these are 3 YouTube videos from the actual podcast. It's just that it's 10 minutes. It's 10-minute segments. So this one was just everything about what she said about creatine. This one was about the workout that reverses heart aging. And this one's about sauna. So it's simple. It's just that you need to segment the podcast so that you're not talking about 100 different things at every single second. You're structuring it in 10 minutes. Okay, this 10 minutes, let's talk about creatine. And then that 10 minutes, you can take it out and it becomes a creatine video. And obviously, you see, here was a good outlier. From that, they actually got a 2 million view video. The same one I saw. So you can see how sometimes even these clips become even more valuable than the actual podcast. Okay. And then obviously they turned it into shorts as well. These shorts did really well. As you can see, 600K views, 200K views, 100K views. And these shorts, like, it's not hard to create, but basically they use the peel format, you see, as they were explaining it so that it can be concise. So originally if they had stopped here, they would have only gotten 3.8 million views, but they went and they did all of this and they got 4.3 million views. So in total, they had 8.1 million views across the different formats. So instead of stopping at output, they created leveraged output. So I hope this gives you an understanding of what you can actually do and how you can actually milk and squeeze dry your content and your podcast. You know, you can apply this in other aspects as well. This one was specifically for podcasts, but you can squeeze it dry and you can actually get so much good juice out of this. So before, you would have random conversations. You're hoping something sticks. You get 1 episode, 1 output. You get 0 multiplier effect. You have low views, low engagement. And it basically, your podcast is an expensive vanity project. It's an expensive hobby. You're losing money. Okay. And after, you should have a strategic you should have strategic engineering, creating viral moments. 1 episode becomes 15 plus pieces of content. You get a 5 to 10x multiplier effect. You get higher engagement, higher reach, and you get a revenue generating asset, which I think is very important for most of you if you're a business owner. So here's the framework. Here's the transformation that you're after. All that's missing is your commitment to execute. So action step number 1, plan your next podcast using the PEEL framework. Brief your guest about it so that, if you're feeling weird about it, brief your guest about it, do it together. Okay. Pre-plan 5 to 7 screenshot worthy quotes, basically, quotes and stories. Work with the guest to engineer viral moments, send a pre-episode brief, 10-minute recording. Action step number 4, focus on the clips first, full podcast second. Okay. And some common objections that I've heard before: isn't this manipulative? Want to sound scripted. My podcast is about authenticity. This seems like a lot of work. The only reason why the professionals don't need to do this and they don't need to plan this is because they've done it so many times that it's ingrained into them. They do this. They do it by habit. So if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. TLDR, have fun staying poor. So your 30-day implementation plan, study your Peel framework, plan your next 3 podcasts using Peel, record 2 to 3 episodes using the high leverage framework, and see what you can do to milk it. If you want a good exercise, look at your current podcast. Does it look like this? If it looks like this, now you have a framework. You can look at your old podcast and try to do this. And you'll see how hard it is because you did not follow the framework. Then film a second podcast using the Peel framework and you'll realize how easy it is to now identify clips from that podcast. Most likely you'll realize that from your previous podcast, you had these viral moments that happened by accident. What I'm telling you is that you have a lot of control over it. You can reverse engineer it. Okay. So I want to leave you with this final quote, which is: begin with the clip in mind. Hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll make another video explaining any other concepts if I did not explain it as deeply enough. This Peel framework could be a video by itself, but I wanted to explain the whole framework before I dive deeper into the individual ones. So I hope you got a lot of value out of this. Let me know your feedback and see you in the next episode. Take care.